Once upon a time, an old friend of mine let me borrow his Switch copy of Toby Fox's Undertale. A lot's changed since then, but despite everything, I still love this quirky little game. For sure, it's not perfect, no game is. This is one of my favorite video games of all time, and it still has some flaws. Hell, I think Deltarune has pretty much surpassed Undertale in every way possible, but Undertale is still a timeless masterpiece, and part of the reason why I love Deltarune so much is because I played Undertale first. This was also the first RPG I've beaten, and it's a pretty good introduction to the genre. It's not hundreds of hours long, instead being around 6 to 8 hours. So without further ado, let's revisit Mount Ebott 10 years later to rediscover the magic of this friendly little earthbound Shin Megami Tensei and cave story inspired RPG where nobody has to die. For a brief history lesson, Undertale was created by famous musician, voice actor, writer, and camera-shy dog Toby Fox. He made a name for himself by creating Earthbound hacks and contributing to Homestuck, a series I have no interest in whatsoever. Now, when the time came to make his own game, Toby had the idea for Deltarune before he started on Undertale, but Undertale's premise was an easier sell and Deltarune was essentially Toby's passion project. So one successful Kickstarter campaign later, and Toby had the necessary funds to give us Undertale. I'll never not be surprised that one of my favorite games of all time is essentially a tech demo, Jesus Christ. So the game opens with some exposition letting us know important events of the past. Long ago, two races ruled the earth in harmony, humans and monsters. War broke out between the two, and the humans banished the monsters underground, sealing them off with a magic barrier. One day, a small child wandered over to the mountain and fell in, starting the events of the game. The specifics of why the war broke out and more world building will be shown soon, so for now, let's just allow Toby to take us on a ride. Two other things noteworthy here is the sprite work done by Toby's bestie, Temmie Chang. I'm really glad Temmie is part of the Undertale / Deltarune dev team. Her art style is pretty much inseparable from this franchise, and it's really cozy. And of course, the music. You know me, I love when a game has great music, and Undertale has one of the most iconic soundtracks in all of gaming, making use of recurring leitmotifs. As usual, I'm gonna shout out a ton of my favorites, starting with the opening song, Once Upon a Time. It does a great job sucking you into the storybook vibe of the game despite just being a chiptune track, and listening to it already brings back so many memories. Whoa, hold on there. Before we actually jump into the game, I should delete all my previous save data first. This is common knowledge, but every time you replay Undertale, some events and dialogue may differ depending on previous playthroughs, and some characters straight up remember when you reset your file. And that's cool and all, but for this playthrough I really want to start fresh. After going into the game files on PC and deleting the previous playthrough, we now have a nice and clean save file for us to get our grubby little hands on. So once we make it to the start menu, the first thing we can do is name the human. This screen is the first of many instances where Toby parodies the usual RPG tropes, because in any other RPG you'd just name the character you play as. That's not the case here, as we'll see later, so whatever name we'll pick, it'll be very important later. In this game we control Frisk, the human who fell to the underground. After walking around for a bit, we encounter our first friend. Like he said, this is Flowey, and he's gonna help us get accustomed to this strange new world. Once we enter a combat section with him, he teaches us that we're supposed to touch as many of these friendliness pellets as possible, so let's go. Oh. So, Flowey ended up being an asshole, so our first actual ally is Toriel, caretaker of the ruins. She's a parody on tutorial characters, showing us the ropes in the most obvious ways possible, literally holding our hand at one point, and even her name is short for tutorial. She also gives us a cell phone that serves as a way to get some funny flavor dialogue later on, which is pretty cool. For now, let's explore the ruins. This area serves as the introduction to the gameplay loop, starting with the usual walking around and investigating for little hidden secrets. Unfortunately, the gameplay isn't all that special. I think the more appealing aspects are pretty much literally everything else. Walking around just feels alright. Frisk moves at a moderate pace. It just feels meh. This is something Toby would go on to improve in Deltarune with the addition of a run button, but here it's just okay, I guess. Walking around, we find random hidden items that'll be useful later, like a toy knife and these ribbons that serve as decent armor. We also find out that this game is absolutely hilarious. There's funnier jokes going forward, but in the ruins you have stuff like this rock refusing to move forward, this unnecessarily tense hallway, and the game insulting you for taking too much candy. This game also has an abundance of puzzles, and we get a taste of that in the ruins with this leaf puzzle over here. And while all of this is happening, we're listening to the ruins theme song, which has a nice cozy feeling to it. It really does make you feel a sense of childlike whimsy as you explore the ruins. And of course, the ruins include the introduction to the all too familiar combat system. I mentioned the exploration can be pretty meh in this game, but the combat's actually pretty fun. You can just take the stupid way out and kill everyone in your path, but I'm not about that. Instead, we can resolve our conflicts by alternate, non-violent means against these glup shittos. Each enemy has a different mercy criteria, like complimenting Frogget, eating Vegetoid's greens, or laughing at Snowdrake's jokes. And after your turn is done, your soul is put in a box for a bullet hell segment, which is what sets this game apart from other turn-based RPGs. You have a chance of getting your ass beat here, but if you can maneuver around the friendliness pellets decently, you can make it through without a scratch. There's a couple fights later that do require violence, and there you gotta get the timing right on this thing. I'm not sure what this is. And if you press the button right on the sweet spot, you can do more damage to your opponent. There's not much to the combat other than that, but it's still pretty fun. The only real problem I have with the combat is the means of entering. I don't know, I just prefer when enemies are visible in the overworld as opposed to random encounters. I get this game is going for a more retro vibe and the game's being held together by duct tape, but come on. But on a positive note, I kinda dig the Earthbound inspired framing to the fights with them being in first person, and the track enemy approaching is pretty serviceable as the combat music. It's basic, but it's a banger. So here we are at Toriel's house. I wonder what could be down here. Oh, okay. The music in this area is really melancholic, and it fits the home's vibe perfectly with the warm colors, the cinnamon butterscotch pie on the stove, the shutting off the lights in your room switches the music to a lullaby version. But real quick, I just want to shout out the Deltarune remix since it gives off a tear-jerking nostalgic feel, which makes you feel right at home. Hey, check it out! This will also be important later. You can also find Toriel sitting by the fireplace reading a book on snails. When you're ready to move on, you can ask Toriel when it's time to leave, and her demeanor does a complete 180, getting up from her chair with a sense of urgency. And what better place to inspect than the ominous basement? In a tragic twist, Toriel reveals that there's been more humans that fell to the underground, and all of them met the same grim fate, murdered by Asgore. Toriel doesn't want the same thing to happen again, so we have to prove to her that we have what it takes to survive out there. And we do so by basically doing nothing. Abuse that mercy button like it's your wife in 1940, baby! Eventually, Toriel will get annoyed at us for not doing anything before starting to feel a little bad for us, so her flame magic actively avoids us. But soon, she realizes we might just have what it takes to survive. In this world, it's not kill or be killed. A little kindness goes a long way. So Toriel lets us go, and we say goodbye. Once we step out the ruins, we enter the snowed-in forest, and it seems that we have a stalker. Now, be honest, do you really need me to tell you who this is? If you somehow didn't know, this is Sans the Skeleton, aka one of the most recognizable video game characters of all time. Sans' introduction ushers in a more comedic tone, with his whole shtick being goofy jokes. He also lets us know that his brother, Papyrus, is on the hunt for humans, so after we hide behind this conveniently shaped lamp, we're introduced to the best character in the entire game. I just realized they're named after fonts. God damn it, Toby. I think now's a good time to talk about this game's presentation. The ruins were just kind of okay looking, but from Snowdin onwards, the art style really gets to show more impressive stuff. Snowdin has a much better atmosphere. The pine trees, the snow, the whimsical piano in the background, it's all great. Later on, there's a scene where we walk on a bridge and we get to see this pretty background of the forest below. If I was a monster trapped underground, I'd live here in a heartbeat. Anyway, we're immediately introduced to the Resident Evil item box where we can store unneeded loot, so I'll just put the spider donut and Toriel's pie away from now. Immediately afterwards, we get another funny Papyrus scene. Is it just me, or does his theme song sound an awful lot like Balrog's from Cave Story? Whatever, anyway, Papyrus' deal is that he wants to capture a human so he can become head of the royal guard, so he litters the forest with his own puzzles while trying to get Sans to stop being so lazy. And like I said before, every interaction with the Skeleton Bros is comedy gold, which we'll see soon. But for now, we're free to explore more of the forest. Never mind, it's combat time, I guess. So here's the first of a few dog enemies in Snowdin. He introduces a new element to the bullet hell combat, blue attacks that hurt you if you move while touching it, so you need to stay perfectly still. It's pretty simple, but it helps elevate the combat. But other than that, Doggo's boss is pretty simple, so while I'm at it, let's just get the other dogs out of the way. So here comes Lesser Dog. I actually don't have anything to say for these two. But later on, we see a Snowpuff. Oh cool, I got some gold from this one. But then, Rewinding a bit, there's some interesting puzzle mechanics introduced, like these crosses on the floor that switch to circles, but stepping on a circle will fail the puzzle. These combined with the slippery ice that sends you forward non-stop make for some pretty engaging stuff. And hey, the punishment for falling is a funny little snow papyrus all buffed up right next to a little lump of snow with sands written on it. And speaking of papyrus, it's time for his first devious puzzle. I can't wait to see what kind of cranium-cracking conundrum he has in store for us. Man, I was absolutely perplexed on that one. I almost had to look up a guide. And if you thought that was hard, the next one was expertly crafted by Mr. Funny Bones himself, Comic Sans. What a real head scratcher. And now, for the funniest one, Papyrus has this random tile generator, and he gives this long-winded explanation on which tile does what. It's definitely not something a new player would be able to memorize and perfect, but then... I love this game so much. Skipping ahead a little bit, we're finally at Snowdin Town. There's plenty of typical RPG stuff to do here, a cute little shop where we can buy more healing items, an inn to sleep at to recover HP, and we can talk to all the townspeople to see quirky jokes in addition to their day-to-day struggles. Some NPCs talk about how shitty the world is, and they really can't do anything about it but try to live life semi-happy. It's honestly pretty relatable. Going into the library and talking to the shop owner reveals a couple cool details, like how monsters are mostly made of magic and dust as opposed to humans who are mostly water. Humans are also much more powerful than monsters, which explains why they won the war so easily. We also learned that the Snowdin folk originated from the ruins but eventually settled out in the cold, all except for Sans and Papyrus, who kinda just showed up one day. This simple line sparks a big question that the fandom's been theorizing and pondering for the past 10 years. Where exactly did they come from? Now, I'm gonna get into theory territory much later, but trust me, I will. But for now, the Skeleton Brothers' past is a mystery yet to be solved. Now, past the town, we go to this weird hallway with a white pattern overlay thing, and for the life of me, I can never tell what it is. Is it a blizzard or something? This isn't a bit. I might genuinely be stupid. Anyway, we've been weaseling our way through Papyrus's puzzles thus far, but we've also been complimenting him and kind of getting him to warm up to us. So at this point, Papyrus is feeling pretty conflicted. He wants to capture a human for all the fame and glory, but he also doesn't want to miss out on a chance to make a friend. So here we are at the Papyrus boss fight. All we really have to do is flirt with him once and proceed to do nothing while he yaps away, but the bullet hell segment is where things start to get interesting. When our soul turns blue, the game's basically a 2D platformer where we jump around bones. They also managed to work in some funnies like a dog stealing Papyrus's special attack, and he proceeds to do a normal attack afterwards, which is pretty much just his finishing move. It's a bunch of bones, this really long jump, the bones spelling out cool dude, and this last pathetic tiny bone moseying over here. Papyrus is rubbing it behind his ears? He's a skeleton, he doesn't have any ears! Oh. Never mind, this game's airtight. And of course, the music here is fantastic. Papyrus's battle theme, Bone Trousle, is quite literally a banger. Fun fact, originally this was meant to be the normal combat theme before Toby replaced it with the final one. If you ask me, that was a good call. As good as this theme is, I think it'd be repetitive if I had to listen to it during every single fight, but that's not the case here, so we can avoid another Sonic Unleashed incident. But hey, this song is in all the trailers, and it works there. And on that note, let's have a listen to the trailer version. Once we spare Papyrus, he's now our ally, and he gives us directions to the king's castle, which is our ticket out of here. Frisk can come across the barrier easily since humans have powerful souls. And according to Papyrus, the king, Mr. Dreamer, wants to break the barrier with soul power. And if we remember what Toriel said back in the ruins, we can put 2 and 2 together to figure out that Mr. Asgore Dreamer needs more than just one human soul. We haven't even met Asgore yet, but everything surrounding his scheme sounds pretty interesting. But anyway, now we're free to hang out with the Skeleton Bros, starting off with a date with Papyrus. This scene is pretty funny, but unfortunately I don't have much to say about it other than I think the date escalating into a competition is funny, and the music here sounds like it's been used as sponsorship music for at least 50,000 YouTubers out there. Speaking of which, this video isn't sponsored, but make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notif bell, and follow me on Newgrounds and Blue Sky to keep up with my other stuff. You can also become a channel member or patron to see videos early, as well as getting to see your name on the end screen. Yeah, I figured I'd just say that here instead of at the end. On the other hand, lunchtime with Sans is slightly more interesting. We're at Grillby's bar, where all the dog enemies are chilling, as well as a couple of other quirky NPCs. So after Frisk carelessly spills ketchup all over their burger, Sans lets us know that Papyrus has been secretly communicating with a talking flower. A talking flower who's been giving him flattery, advice, encouragement, and predictions. Sans remarks that it's pretty weird and he tells us to keep an eye out. Now, judging by what we already know, we can discern that the talking flower must be none other than the echo flowers in the waterfall. Obviously, the waterfall has a pretty different tone compared to Snowdin. While the latter was all goofy fun with Sans and Papyrus, here we immediately eavesdrop on a conversation with Papyrus and the captain of the Royal Guard, Undyne. Undyne is more or less meant to embody the hope of all the monsters underground. The hope that someday the barrier will be broken by King Asgore. As such, she's on the hunt for humans. Considering we spend the past hour slowly befriending Papyrus, seeing him ultimately give in and try to help Undyne kill us, it's a little saddening. After Undyne disappears, a feeling of dread looms over us, but we stay determined. The game just looks better the more time goes on. The waterfall may look simplistic at first, but later on we go into this room with the glowy water and darkened terrain, and it looks incredible. The pouring water, the rain effects and puddles, the glowy mushrooms and distant stalactites giving off the illusion of stars in the night sky. Toby knocked it out of the park here. And the ambience at times really sells the glum mood, as well as the track Waterfall, which reuses the ruins motif in a more depressing portrayal. And here the game sheds some more light on the war and the hope to someday be free. I mentioned the echo flowers earlier, and they repeat the last thing spoken to them. Some repeat bypassers who wish upon the metaphorical stars, and some text on the walls explained the reason why the war happened was because humans feared the monster's power to take their souls, which sounds awesome as hell. We also get some more perspective on just how powerful humans are, since they said it would take every monster's soul to barely equate to a single human's, and the exact number needed to break the barrier was 7. And if a human soul were to fuse with a monster's body, the result would be pretty damn ugly. There's also— holy shit, is that Gerson? Oh, sorry. I still have Deltarune Chapter 4 on the brain, and Gerson is a fucking beast in that game. But here he's pretty much just a random shopkeeper with some pretty cool lore. In his youth, he was a renowned hero nicknamed the Hammer of Justice, and he knows things like the origin of that odd symbol seen in the ruins called the Deltarune. It's believed to allude to a prophecy of sorts. The triangles are the monsters trapped below, and the winged circle is an angel from the surface descending to free all the monsters. Some depict it as an angel of death coming to free them from their misery, but Gerson just thinks it's neat. I love this old man. And despite Waterfall being a downer setting, there's some moments of levity, like Sans showing up just to prank you, and our interactions with Monster Kid. He idolizes Undyne, but he also wants to be our friend, and seeing him mess up Undyne's attempts to catch us is pretty funny. And at some point we do a piano puzzle that leads to a secret artifact, and before we can grab it, this happens. And of course, Temmie Village. This secret room is inhabited by Temmie Chang, and they all talk like— well, that. We can also sell our unused items to the shop, and the Temmie shopkeeper is very generous, which is really convenient. The shop system is another RPG subversion, since most RPGs you can sell unused items off for more cash, but every shopkeeper minus Temmie is just like— Waterfall is kind of lacking in the puzzle department. There's really only the flower and crystal ones, but that's about it. The real showstopper of this area is the bosses and set pieces, so let's start with the Undyne chases. Occasionally, Undyne goes full Mr. X and just starts chasing us around, except she's constantly throwing her spears at us. And if you get caught by one, you're forced to a short bullet hell segment. Undyne is just the coolest, man. These chases are a nice addition, and the music here, simply titled Run, does a great job conveying the frantic feeling of being chased around by an Amazonian fish in shining armor. And once we win the second one, we fall down and lose consciousness, and we're greeted with a remnant of the past. Yeah, I should have just named them the canonical name. This just completely undercuts the moment. Yeah, man, I bet it is. But then... this is the Mad Dummy. They're mad at us for... I don't know. But whatever the reason, they're evil and crazy, so they're gonna kill us! Fun fact about the Mad Dummy, in the Switch port for Undertale, the ghost haunting the dummy left it to possess the Mew Mew doll, so I guess she's a trans girl. And everybody knows that all trans girls come equipped with tiny robo-duplicates that shoot magic attacks and missiles. What, you girls don't have these too? You gotta dodge the attacks so they shoot the mad egg instead, which is a pretty cool mechanic, and I just love this boss's manic energy. The dummy is moving around like a freak, they even throw a knife at us at one point, and the music, well, it's just a faster version of Napstablook's battle theme, but it's great. And speaking of Napstablook, I just realized I forgot to talk about him back in the ruins. Anyway, it's time to fight Undyne now. Undyne is perched atop this mountain, about to give a long-winded monologue before she decides, fuck it, I'm just gonna kill you. She takes off her helmet to reveal she's the sexiest fish alive, and we start the battle. This one's my favorite for a multitude of reasons. For one, Undyne is my favorite character in the whole game, and two, it throws a new mechanic at us, much like Papyrus's boss. Our soul is now green, so we have to defend ourselves against incoming spears with a shield. Occasionally, we'll turn back to red, and when that happens, we can escape further into the next area before she catches us. It's like a little game of cat and mouse, it's so fun. And third, Undyne is just noble as hell, and she has everyone's best interest in mind. Unlike Papyrus, she gives it her all, and in her words, she'll show us just how determined monsters can be. Her theme song, Spears of Justice, is perfect for this scene. It brings her nobleness and bold nature to the front, and it's really what makes the whole battle work. In the middle of the battle, Papyrus calls us and says that the three of them should hang out together, and the battle truly ends once we enter Hotland. Undyne collapses in the harsh temperature over the boiling lava below, but once we save her with the nearby water cooler, she cuts her losses and goes home. But of course, let's follow her. This date is much better than Papyrus's in my opinion, but then again, it's probably just my Undyne bias. Jeez, okay, fine, I enjoyed yours too. Anyway, understandably, Undyne doesn't want to be our friend at first, but Papyrus challenges her, so she accepts. She's really determined to get us to like her to the point where she doesn't let us get up from our seat to pick a drink. Instead, we use one of her spears to pick out tea, the blatantly correct choice. And after she opens her heart to us by talking about Asgore and Papyrus, she figures cooking spaghetti would bring us even closer together. And Undyne does everything to the extreme. Slash the vegetables, stir the pasta hard enough to break the pot, crank up the heat. Oh, the house is on fire. Best hangout session, 10 out of 10, no notes. Before we really get to see anything from Hotland, we enter a dimly lit laboratory and we see that whoever lives here has been monitoring us this whole time. This was foreshadowed way back in Snowdin since there's a camera in one of the bushes. Not long after, we meet the owner of this lab, the royal scientist, Dr. Alphys. I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but Alphys is one of my least favorite characters in the game. Don't get me wrong, I like her, but she's not as funny or interesting as others like Toriel, Papyrus, Sans, or Undyne. That does change a little bit when we get to a certain section later, but for now she's a shy, insecure shut-in who eats instant noodles, obsesses over anime, feels like everyone hates her, and she has a crush on Undyne. Wait, did I just describe Alphys or myself? Like I said before, Alphys has been watching us throughout our journey, but thankfully she's grown quite attached to us. However, she did build a killer robot with anti-human combat features, and it's heading this way. So this is Alphys's robot Metaton. The entirety of Hotland has us play the same old game of evading traps like with Papyrus back in Snowdin, except here it's got the whole game show thing going for it. It's pretty entertaining. Our first encounter with him is pretty simple. All you have to do is answer his questions correctly, or you die. These questions can be pretty easy to answer. Okay, not really. But don't fret, because Alphys knows the answers and she'll gladly tell them to us, no matter how stupidly impossible the question may be. Like, what kind of monster is this? Frogget? Nope, it's Metaton, obviously. Or how many letters are in the word Metaton? She's got us covered. Flies in a jar? More like, this question's not hard. I tried. Would you smooch a ghost? Well, that was fun, and before we leave, Alphys upgraded our phone to do a variety of new tricks like a portable item box and access to the Undernet, which is just whatever. Sometimes you'll get a notification for her tweets and they all boil down to, I'm insecure, so thanks, Alphys, I guess. But besides that, Hotland is still a really good area. The rocky terrain combined with the scorching hot lava below looks pretty neat, and later on we get a great view of the core, where all the magical electricity of the underground comes from, and we'll need to get inside to reach Asgore. Mechanically, Hotland introduces the orange laser attacks, which are like the blue ones from earlier, but with those you need to stop moving in order to prevent damage, whereas the former needs you to constantly be on the move. Combined with the conveyor belts, the blue and orange lasers are a welcome obstacle. Then there's also the vents that propel you forward, which are in every single trailer of the game for some reason. And some doors are blocked off, so we'll need to do this simple puzzle involving blocks and a couple bullets. There's also some special mini-bosses against these gay guards and Muffet, who's skippable if you bought something from the spider bakery in the ruins. Also, she's really hot, don't at me. And the music here is perfect. The track Another Medium really amplifies the high temperature, and that steady drum beat does a lot to hype us up to keep trucking along. It fills you with determination. Hey, it's Sans! Why does he have a snow on his roof here? Don't worry. He's selling hot dogs. Is your inventory full? Don't worry about it. He's got you covered. Breaking news! The whole vicinity is littered with bombs. If we don't defuse them on time, we're all gonna die. But don't worry, Alphys is here to save us. The bomb has a built-in bomb defuse mode because of course it does. So now we can defuse them with ease. Movie script? Bam. Basketball? Bam. Glass of water? Bam. Toby Fox? Bam. Boy, am I glad the cool and smart Dr. Alphys is here to help us, and she definitely has no ulterior motives. And now Mettaton's about to sing a song. What is this, some kind of Undertale the musical? Hey, wait a second. These tiles look awfully familiar. I was supposed to memorize these? The scent of ozone fills the air. We're surrounded in a technological fortress nearing the end of our journey. We're filled with determination. The core is pretty much everything I want in a final area in a video game. It's unlike any location we've seen thus far, with the background having a blue microchip-y pattern along other machinery, as well as the sea of magical electricity below. The music is also my favorite area theme in the game, tied with another medium. It also does a great job at pushing us to the end, as the final area should. But this music isn't interrupted when we enter combat, making it all the more hype. And the enemies here give it their all. They're some of the hardest enemies in the entire game, and it's fun to test your skill against them. Eventually, we catch up to Mettaton, and he reveals something that's kind of been obvious. Alphys rigged the whole thing to make it look like she was saving us from Mettaton's murder attempts. Mettaton says it best when he says she was trying to show you the wonderful person that she's not. So here's where Mettaton puts us in some actual danger for his series finale. Real drama, real action, real bloodshed. Before we get to the actual boss fight, let's talk a little bit about Mettaton himself. In the alley behind the resort, we can buy Mettaton's old house key from Bratty and Caddy, and his house is located back in Waterfall. We can read his diaries on the floor, revealing some interesting stuff here. Before being a robot, Mettaton was Napstablook's ghost cousin. When their other cousin left to become Mad Dummy, Mettaton states he'd never leave to become a corporeal, since he'd never find the body that would make him feel like himself. That all changed when he met Dr. Alphys, and so he agreed to leave the Waterfall to possess the body of his dreams. Now, it doesn't take a genius to notice the obvious trans parallels to Mettaton's story, and personally, that's cool as fuck. I know I really don't have a say in this since, you know, I'm a trans femme, but whenever trans people are represented in media, if at all, it's only ever us trans femmes, so the fact that one of the most iconic indie games of all time features a trans masked supporting character is just really cool to me. Speaking of which, after we turn him around and flip his switch, we get to see just what kind of body Alphys built for him.
Oh, yes.
I think we can all agree that this is one of the most memorable moments in the game. With his new glamorous body, Mettaton broadcasts the battle live to the entire underground, and in order to win, we have to raise the ratings to over 10,000. Eat Mettaton branded food, pose for the camera, take damage, type in something sexy for the written response, anything to win the audience's favor. Of course, our soul has a new gimmick too, and What is this? Some kind of Undertale yellow? Just kidding, it's Space Invaders on crack. Shoot the Mettaton minis, avoid the bombs, prove how good you are on the dance floor, and have a heart-to-heart with Mettaton. And speaking of the dance floor, it's that time again, folks. Shouting out the music! Nothing beats Death by Glamour. With the ratings raised higher than ever, Mettaton cancels the show and announces his plans to become a superstar on the surface. But suddenly, he gets an influx of calls from fans, making him realize he can't just leave everyone, especially not his cousin. As his batteries give out, he thanks us for helping and for being a great audience. At long last, we finally made it to the capital of the underground, the new home. It's pretty much just a color swap of the ruins, and we go through the home segment again, but this is home to one of my favorite parts of the game. As we explore the house, we hear a somber and tragic yet hopeful song simply titled Undertale. Enemy encounters pop up, and they tell the story of the king's son, Asriel, and here's where the story starts to come together. Once upon a time, a human named Kara fell to the underground. Asriel and Kara became great friends, almost like siblings. The underground was full of hope, but one day, Kara became sick. Their only request was to see the flowers from their village, but there was nothing the monsters could do, so Kara unfortunately died. Stricken with grief, Asriel absorbed Kara's soul and passed through the barrier, trying to deliver Kara's body to their village, eventually fighting a bed of golden flowers. The villagers thought Asriel was the cause of Kara's death, so he was beaten mercilessly. Asriel made it back to the underground, turning into dust and spreading all over Asgore's garden. Angered, King Asgore declared that all humans that fall to the underground are to be hunted down to eventually break the barrier. This also made the queen leave and dedicate her time to protect any human that fell down. Sound familiar? Despite all the tragedy that befell the monsters and the Dreamer family, there's still hope that someday they'll break through the barrier. Despite our upcoming encounter with Asgore shaping up to be a reluctant battle that neither of you want, we'll stay determined and play by our own rules. After all, despite everything, it's still you. Before the throne room, we make it to the iconic Judgment Hall. But first, let's back up a bit. Before entering the court, we can have dinner with Sans. There's not much to this scene, but it's pretty cozy. The biggest takeaway is that Sans knows Toriel, telling corny jokes from behind the ruins door. They quickly became friends, and this whole joke-telling thing is just part of their routine now. But one day, Toriel made Sans promise to protect any human who left the ruins. We can see here that Toriel means a lot to Sans, and he states that if he didn't promise, back in the Judgment Hall, Sans is here to explain another RPG subversion. Throughout the Pacifist run, we never gained any love or EXP, and that's because we never killed anyone. Love and EXP are acronyms for level of violence and execution points, and since we never got any, Sans remarks that our next course of action will determine the fate of the world. We proved to Sans that we can get by without harming anyone, so as long as we hang in there and stay determined, everything will be just fine. But what if I didn't do the pacifist route? What if I was a little evil and decided to kill everyone for the heck of it? Yeah, I figured I should talk about the genocide route when I got to Judgment Hall because I really don't want this video to have a downer ending. Throughout the pacifist route, the central themes of friendship and determination are front and center. Everyone and anyone can be spared, and we gotta do our best to save the world. But if you farm enemy encounters and go out of your way to kill everyone, the game drops the chipper tone and becomes something entirely different. You're not a silly little goober anymore, you're a remorseless murderer. The music is distorted to something you'd hear in a Silent Hill game. Word quickly gets out that a serial killer is on the loose, and all the survivors start to evacuate. By the end of the game, Frisk is ultra powerful and can one-hit kill any enemy with a staggeringly high level of violence. This includes bosses, so every major encounter like Toriel and Papyrus disintegrate with a swift slash of your knife. There's only 3 bosses in the genocide route, and they're all really hard. To start, Undyne once again proves to be the best character in the game as she comes back to life out of sheer willpower to strike us down. This new form, dubbed Undyne the Undying, looks sick as fuck, and now that we're the bad guys, Undyne proves herself to be the hero, and the track Battle Against the True Hero reflects that perfectly. I only did the genocide route once in my, 7 years of being a fan, and I'd probably have an easier time if I played it now, but that would require doing the genocide route again, and I actually have empathy, so. Anyway, Undyne starts to melt when she dies, which foreshadows something later in the pacifist route, which leads us to the next boss fight, Mettaton Neo! He dies in one hit. The final boss is Sans. For years, many people misinterpreted this scene as Sans wanting revenge for Frisk killing Papyrus. And while Sans is undoubtedly upset about it, he primarily wants the player to quit so the universe isn't reset again. Here, he truly gives us a bad time. It's the hardest boss fight in the game, making use of all of Papyrus's attacks as well as a new one, the Gaster Blaster. Despite Sans only having 1 hit point, we never managed to hit him once as he keeps dodging our knife while calling us a shitty person. And man, do I really need to bring up the music? Let's just get back to the neutral route now. After all this time, we enter King Asgore's throne room, a sunny garden covered in golden flowers. In the center of the room, we finally meet Asgore in person as he's tending to the plants. But as soon as he sees Frisk, he knows exactly what must be done. Asgore takes us to the barrier, the magic spell keeping monsters trapped underground, visually resembling an endless hallway of light. He pulls out the 6 human souls collected previously, destroys the mercy button, and here we are at the beginning of the end. Asgore's fight has a sense of tragedy to it. Neither of you want to do this, but it's the only way for Asgore to break the barrier or for Frisk to go home. And as such, we have no other choice but to kill him. It's really unfortunate. Asgore's combat sprite is also my favorite in the game since his face is obscured by shadows. You can tell exactly what's going on in his head. Asgore uses his trident to dish out the orange and blue attacks, and he also shares the same flame attacks as Toriel. Gee, I wonder why. The bullet patterns can be pretty hard to keep track of, but oops. As I was saying, this boss can be a little hard at times, but don't fret, eating Toriel's pie lowers Asgore's attack and defense. The closer we get to winning, the more damage we do, and nothing does a better job at hyping us up than the beautiful music playing. I can't really listen to it the same anymore now that it's just riddled with memes, but it's still an awesome piece anyway. Now that Flowey's killed Asgore, he takes the power of the human souls to... What? Okay, let's just boot up the game again. So, with the 6 human souls still inside his body, Flowey's become powerful enough to crash the game, so we're now playing by his rules. He is now a god with the power to save and reload the game on his own terms, and since we didn't abide by his kill or be killed philosophy, his goal is now to kill us over and over again. This is the final boss of the neutral route, Omega Flowey, aka Flowey X, aka Photoshop Flowey, aka Pure Nightmare Fuel. As you can see, he's entirely made up of JPEGs, setting him apart from anything in the game visually. I'll never forget the first time I saw him. I went in completely blind, so seeing this thing for the first time, it chilled me to the bone. It was so horrifying to see. This situation is completely hopeless. Flowey is giving it his all to murder you in the craziest bullet hell segment in the game. And on top of that, Flowey keeps loading and saving the game, so you'll find yourself warping around the arena sometimes. Occasionally, we have the option to attack him, but it does jack shit. I swear, the first time I got to this part, I thought it was gonna be impossible. The music even conveys an extreme feeling of hopelessness and fear, but the thing about this boss is that it's all about endurance, because occasionally, one of the human souls hijacks Omega Flowey's body to lend a helping hand. The bits with the souls helping out give us an opportunity to see what they were like back when they were alive, and their colors are linked to a specific attribute as seen back in the snowed-in ball game. The cyan soul embodies patience, the orange one is bravery, blue is integrity, purple is perseverance, green is kind, and yellow is justice. Certain attack and defense items were believed to belong to them when they were alive, like the toy knife and faded ribbon for cyan, and the cowboy hat for yellow, which was expanded on in the fan game Undertale Yellow, which is apparently so good that some people consider it canon, so I guess it's worth a peep. But then, once the souls have all helped out, they nurse us back to full health, and the music ramps up to something a little more optimistic. It feels like we can actually do something to win now. It feels like patience, bravery, integrity, perseverance, kindness, justice, and most of all, determination. What was once a hopeless scramble in a hell made just for you is now an optimistic hype finale. Now that we have a constant stream of health and Flowey's defense has dropped to 0. Now we're ultra powerful and Flowey gets increasingly more scared. He does fake us out by loading up his first save, but the human souls rebel one last time. And that was Undertale. All things considered, it was an amazing experience. The ending was incredible and full of spectacle, and even if all things considered, it was pretty simple. I don't really have much to say anymore, so, okay, bye. Yeah, I'm joking. There's a way to get a better ending. After booting up the game again, we reload our save file and Undyne calls us for a favor, so we trek back to Snowdin Town. We need to deliver a letter to Alphys over at Hotland. Undyne would do it herself, but we all remember what happened the last time she was at Hotland. As soon as we deliver the letter, we find out that it's a passionate confession revealing Undyne's feelings for Alphys, and Undyne forgot to sign it. And unfortunately, we find out as soon as Alphys reads it, starting another date. Except this one's in the waterfall garbage area, and it's incredibly awkward. Man, even the game is getting embarrassed at this. Eventually, Alphys drops the whole charade, revealing this was all just a pretend date, thank God. It's pretty obvious she has the hots for Undyne, but she can't bring herself to be honest about it, or about anything for that matter. She says that she wants to be herself, but she doesn't even like who herself is. And honestly, I relate to this so badly. I mean, you all know my Sona used to look different, and that's basically me hating myself for like a year or two. Anyway, after we get her to be a little more confident in herself, she declares her love for Undyne by screaming it to the heavens and... Aw, shit. Hey, that outfit looks awesome on her. So Undyne wants Alphys to be more confident in herself, so she sends Papyrus to train her, or something. The problem is, Alphys' self-hatred is rooted into some horrific shit she's done prior to the events of the game. The only way she's gonna get better is if everyone knows what she did. So she goes home and leaves us an ominous note, and one intense elevator ride later, we step into Alphys' true lab. This area has a completely different vibe from any other. It sort of reminds me of Resident Evil in a way, and if you know me, you'll know that's a good thing. We're exploring this dark, abandoned laboratory while searching for keys to open a door in the center, all while encountering strange zombies and reading lab entries on the walls for more story. But before we get to that, of course, the music here is incredible. Here We Are is delightfully dark and mysterious, fitting the vibe of this place as we investigate further, and that percussion is just so good. So the story goes like this. While Asgore was collecting human souls to break the barrier, Alphys conducted experiments on them. See, it takes a human soul and a monster soul to pass through the barrier, but the only problem is monster souls vanish after death, unlike human souls. That's because monsters lack the power of determination, which is what makes a human soul persist after death. It's also the power that allows us to save the game. So Asgore delivered the bodies of the monsters that have fallen down to Alphys so she could inject them with determination. When a monster is fallen down, they're basically in a coma before they turn to dust. At first, the experiments seemed to pay off. The dead monsters came back to life, and Alphys planned to send them home to their families. But things got really ugly really fast, and the determination-infused monsters melted together to create the Amalgamates. These things are genuinely pretty cool. They're familiar yet warped into something creepy and unrecognizable. Like this one with the same actions for Lesser Dog, except the attacks have faceless Toby Fox spewing out the Spears of Justice, except these are white, not yellow. So I guess the ones in Undyne's fight are the Spears of Jaundice. And since these guys are a mishmash of different monster species we fought previously, their clear criteria is also a mishmash of different monster species. We need to get them to remember who they are, and oops, I'm low on health. I better eat something. I never tried the instant noodles, how about these? Have I never encountered this joke in all my years of playing this game? Back in the lab, we had a major bombshell in the VHS room. We can watch videotapes on here, all of which are conveniently blacked out, but the main takeaway here is that Kara was the one to come up with the plan to break the barrier, and they did so by committing suicide, purposely overdosing on buttercup flowers and pulling Azrael into their plan. Their true intentions will be discussed fairly soon, but for now, we also see that one of Alphys's failed experiments was injecting determination into a flower from the king's garden to become a vessel to break the barrier using both types of souls, which birthed the one and only Flowey the Flower. And if we remember the New Home story, this is grim as fuck. Azrael, the bright young goat child who could do no wrong, has been reincarnated into a flower with determination, the will to live, and yet he has no soul. And after resetting the timeline over and over, he lost his compassion, treating this world just as a game. And after Alphys gears up to return the amalgamates to their families, Frisk enters the final elevator and gets a strange phone call. So now we're back in New Home, and remember, we didn't technically fight Asgore yet since we reloaded the save, so let's go meet up with him. Asgore takes us to the barrier, the magic spell keeping monsters trapped underground, visually resembling an endless hallway of light. He pulls out the 6 human souls collected previously, and BAM! Toriel's back. It's so good to see her again. She's been worried sick, so she followed us all the way over here to prevent us from taking a life, even if it's the life of her piece of shit ex-husband pushover, King Asgore Fluffy Buns driving in my car dreamer. She also says that Asgore could have just taken 1 human soul and then passed the barrier for the other 6, which is weird since, as stated previously, humans are basically Saiyans compared to monsters, but I think Toriel just wanted to see Asgore get his ass handed to him more than anything. And soon after, Undyne shows up to stop any fight from breaking out, and so does Alphys, and Sans and Papyrus, and Mettaton for like 2 seconds. This is the first time all these characters are in the same room, and their interactions are pretty funny and heartwarming. I'm especially a fan of the moment where Papyrus is glad to meet Toriel until she tells him a sans tier joke, so now it's the worst day of his life. But anyway, how did everyone get gathered here in the first place? So, while we weren't looking, Flowey took the human souls again, but this time he plans to absorb the souls of everyone here in order to become the most powerful being in the universe. And just like our fight with him in the neutral route, he plans on killing us over and over again until we give up. So he does his usual shtick of bombarding us with friendliness pellets until something magical happens. Right as Flowey is about to kill Frisk, Toriel chimes in to encourage our hero to push forward, and as more of our friends cheer us on, we regain more health. From this point on, everything just gives me goosebumps. It's pretty corny if you think about it, you know, the whole power of friendship thing, but I don't care. This scene is just so cool. So here we are at the true final boss. Azrael's been reborn, but this time as a sinister god of death now that he has everyone's soul beating inside of him. The background changes into something colorful and trippy and... oops. Now that's how you know shit's starting to go down. As Azrael goes on about how he just wants to reset everything back to 0, the gimmick here is that we have to either hope or dream. Hoping reduces damage taken, and dreaming fills your inventory with consumable dreams. Azrael's attacks start off similarly to Toriel and Asgore's, but as soon as the background goes all crazy, he brings out a bunch of star and lightning based attacks that pack a huge punch, as well as bringing out a couple of swords at one point. And of course, what really makes the whole fight work is the music, starting with the song Hopes and Dreams. This is essentially the final scene of an anime where the protagonist gains the upper hand against the bad guy and the opening theme starts to play, except here it's a hype remix mixed in with Flowey's theme. But unfortunately, Azrael gains the upper hand and shows off his full power, transforming into something more akin to Omega Flowey. Everything's hopeless now, and this dream quickly becomes a nightmare. We can't move our body. The world is ending all around us. We can't do anything. We can't even reach our save file. But maybe we can save something else. Something resonates within Azrael's soul, so in one of my favorite instances of the game, we need to save our friends in order to save the world. All of our friends are lost in a state of hopelessness, so we need to remind them of the memories we shared together. Tell jokes to the skeleton bros, tell Undyne about cooking pasta, encourage Alphys, tell Toriel your pie preference. And during each character's section, they bring back each colored soul gimmick. It's really easy, but it's a perfect send-off to the gameplay portion since the rest is just cutscenes. And the track Save the World actually made me cry when I recorded the footage as well as when typing the script. And now that all our friends are back, we need to call back to Azrael to get him to stop, to get him to remember the memories of his family. And now that he actually has a soul, our plan works. So now Azrael acknowledges all the horrible shit he's done without a soul, and here's where they reveal that Kara and Frisk are not the same person, but in a way, they kind of are. Most of Kara's motives are left up to player interpretation due to the lack of writing material the game gives us. It's widely agreed on that Kara's soul is sort of possessing Frisk, controlling them throughout their journey. So in a way, we did name our character, since we play Kara controlling Frisk. I see the pacifist route as the canonical end to this story, and in this route, I think Kara realized their plan tore the Dreamers apart, so they made Frisk make things right by saving the day. However, in the genocide route, as for Azrael, the only way to make things right is to break the barrier, now that everyone's soul is still beating inside of him, all with the same desire of freedom. And in one tender, quiet scene, Frisk and Kara forgive Azrael, hugging him one last time. And then, we wake up. And now the game's over. The barrier's broken, everyone's happy, and we all have a new life on the surface to look forward to. But first, we have to say goodbye. In this portion, you can reflect on the way things turned out while walking around to say goodbye to everyone. And I really mean everyone. As the credits roll, we can see what everyone's up to now that all monsters are free, as well as who came up with the designs for them, mostly in order of appearance. Everyone gets a happy ending foreshadowed throughout the game, and the credits melody, "Bring It In, Guys," fills me with a sense of accomplishment. You saved the world and befriended everyone, this is your reward. Papyrus gets to drive around, Alphys and Undyne are free to be gay and do crime, Asgore trims a hedge in the shape of Papyrus's face, Toriel becomes a teacher, Metaton performs with his cousin, and all is well. And that was Undertale. I've been wanting to do this video for a long ass time, and I'm glad I finally could now that it's 10 years old. I really hope I did the game justice since there's so much to appreciate here, and its influence should not be understated at all. This game touched the hearts of millions of players out there, acting as an inspiration artistically, musically, narratively, morally, and personally. And I'm one of those people if you somehow couldn't already tell. Even if the gameplay itself wasn't super stellar, the art direction, writing, music, characters, and story more than make up for it. And the fact that this entire story was just Toby practicing for his next game is a testament to just how talented this little dog is. This was incredible to revisit, and I had a ton of fun making this retrospective, even if it took a lot out of me. If you made it to the end, thank you so much for what- Oh, I forgot about this. So now we have a final bullet hell segment where we need to dodge all the names in the credits, and if you do it flawlessly, oh god damn it! Well, I guess we'll never find out. Anyway, as I was saying, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Good night.